ESPN came out with their roster projection article for the upcoming season, and what I want to do on today's episode is not run through all 53 names, but I want to look at the names not included that are a little surprising to me and probably to you as well. So welcome on into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here with a quick PSA, which is this is my last week on the channel altogether. I know back in May and June, I announced, hey, I'm going to be making a career change, and I ultimately stayed on for some part-time work with Chat Sports while they find a new replacement, which I've learned they have, and this person will be starting in August, but I don't know much more beyond that. So this is my final week on the channel, but I'll say the tears and the goodbye for the end of the week. Let's look at three notable cut candidates, if you will, not in Daniel Ofusi's projection for the Browns roster. He always does a great job of covering the team, so make sure you check him out as well. But the first name that I noticed was not included for his roster article was Kenny Pickett. He's got three other quarterbacks. You've got Joe Flacco and the two rookies, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. And this is not too big of a surprise to me, but it's definitely something to talk about because the Browns are in kind of a unique situation at quarterback. Like, they really have five guys, right? If you include Deshaun Watson, you have five players who, if healthy, you could all make legitimate arguments to make the roster. And I don't know the last time you could make an argument for five different quarterbacks to make the 53-man roster. But let's focus on the four healthy quarterbacks because I believe Deshaun Watson will be on the PUP list, but I have not seen that come out for the Browns just yet. So maybe it'll come out in a day or two, and his name will then be included on it, but I guess I haven't seen it yet. Anywho, let's put him to the side, Watson to the side, and let's talk about the four healthy quarterbacks on the roster. Flacco and the two rookies, and then Pickett. I think the two rookies are a lock to make the roster. I think they would have to just completely shit the bed, roll around in it, come to work the next morning, and not notice that they smell like crap. That's really the only way I could see one of these two rookies not making the roster. So let's put them into the safe category. That leaves two veterans, Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. Now, you can look at this from a couple different angles. If, let's say, Flacco is way better than Pickett throughout camp and preseason, then it's not a very difficult debate, not a very difficult decision to make. You go with the better quarterback, Joe Flacco. Let's say the two quarterbacks are even. Okay, well, if they're even, you could err on the younger side and go with Pickett. But if they're even, but you still think that Flacco is probably better, then you take the better quarterback, in your opinion. Even if it's like 50-50, it's usually never 50-50, it's 51-49. And if it's 51-49, you can still go with the better one in Joe. Or there's another option, which is you actually do some roster maneuvering. You release Joe Flacco, since he is a veteran who would not be subject to the waiver wire, and you put him on your practice squad, and you use 3 free elevations for him on game day for the first 3 weeks of the season. And that way you don't put Kenny Pickett on the waiver wire because he would be subject to the waiver wire, and you lose him to a team like, say, New Orleans, who someone had an unexpected retirement with Derek Carr, and they're scrambling for a new quarterback on the roster. So that is an option if you just want to be sneaky with it of, hey, we still plan on having Flacco start, but there's a way where we can keep Pickett and keep Flacco at the same time. So that is one option right there. But if I had to put money down as to what's going to happen, I think it's what Daniel predicted. The two rookies make the roster, and I think at the end of the day, the Browns are not going to move on from Joe Flacco. I think he is viewed as their best option for week 1, and Kevin Stefanski would like to avoid another 3-win season. And Flacco probably helps you out with that more than any other quarterback. So not too big of a surprise, but definitely noteworthy. All right, moving on to the next kind of eyebrow-raising moment in this projection, which was the running backs. Ofusi has Jerome Ford, Dylan Sampson, and Pierre Strong Jr. No Quinn Judkins. I'm guessing he is not putting him on here because Quinn Judkins hasn't even signed a contract yet. So while usually that wouldn't be too big of a concern to avoid the rookie making the roster, when we pair that with, him getting arrested and some pretty disturbing details for the allegations regarding his domestic violence dispute in Florida, I'm going to err on side of, I don't think Judkins is going to be on this initial 53-man roster. My best bet as to what's going to happen is the Browns are not in a rush to sign him. They're going to see how the legal process plays out. They're not going to give him a guaranteed contract right now just for him to be charged and convicted of domestic violence and have to go to jail. So they're probably not in a rush to get him under contract right now. He's probably... Actually, I don't know if he's even subject to being suspended. Because how do you suspend someone who doesn't even work for you, right? Like, can the NFL suspend someone who's not even under contract? I think they probably can. They can do whatever the hell they want. So he's probably going to end up on the commissioner's list, which is like a big time timeout, and you're kind of frozen, like your assets. You're not going anywhere. I think he's not on this projection video or projection article because he's going to end up either unsigned to start the year while the Browns continue to wait it out, but they still hold his rights so no one else can sign him, or he'll be suspended like Mike Hall was last year to open up the season, and he does not count towards the 53-man roster when you're suspended by the league. So that's my money, is that he's going to be suspended by roster cutdown day in September, so he's just not going to count towards the 53-man roster for the first, say, 5 or 6 weeks of the season. It's probably going to be a 4 or 6 game suspension. Like, if it's all, clean, and if it's just a standard suspension course we're on right now, it's probably going to result with a 4 to 6 week suspension to open up the year. And knowing the Browns, they just aren't going to care too much. At least they're not going to give us this public image that they care very much. And he'll probably play after that suspension is over. And it's not even that, I don't want to see Quinn Judkins ever play in the NFL again for what he did. And again, it's allegations, so it's tough to say that for sure, but it gets really old when it keeps happening to the Browns over and over again. And Andrew Berry just has no great way of identifying non-headaches of players. All right, third and final player now, Devin Bush, the linebacker. If you remember, speaking of the law enforcement getting involved with the Browns, Bush was arrested in Pittsburgh earlier this offseason. Not nearly to the same level of Judkins, but he's still going through his own legal issues right now. So that could be a reason as to why he was excluded from this roster projection article. Here are the linebackers that did make the 53-man roster for the Browns. Ofusi has Jordan Hicks, Mohamed Diabate, Carson Schlesinger, Jerome Baker, Nathaniel Bookie Watson, and Winston Reed. So Hicks, Diabate, and Schlesinger, those are your 3 starting linebackers right there. I think if healthy, as early as week 1. Maybe Schlesinger is a bit slow to get into the starting lineup, so veteran Jerome Baker is out there for the first few weeks, but I think those are your top 3 linebackers on this team. And then Watson and Reed, they're going to be there for special teams and for injuries. Like Reed, I thought, did a nice job of filling in last year when some guys started to get injured. And Baker is your veteran to help hold over until some of the younger guys like Diabate and Schlesinger are 100% ready to roll. But I think those guys are going to be flying early in the year. So Devin Bush played well last year, especially after the injuries to JOK and whatnot, but just some youth guys. Adding Schlesinger, that's not good for any veteran player. And then you add in the legal issues. That doesn't really bode well for you when you're in the midst of, a coach's debate of who to bring on the roster and who to cut. So there it is. 3 players from Ofusi that did not make the Browns 53-man roster. Kenny Pickett, Quinn Judkins, probably because he's just not under contract and he's probably going to get suspended, and then Devin Bush. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to see everyone later.